Hey friends, so welcome back to DBC Inc. Live. We have a book birthday today. We're super excited. It is our very own having her book birthday. We're just so very pumped up for this book to enter the world. I feel like the endorsements, I was reading over them again last night, and I couldn't agree more with several of them, but just seeing that one of the ones that really just stuck out to me was in this current era of racial reckoning in America. This work should be required reading for all who teach or plan to enter the teaching profession. Nehemiah D. Frank left that endorsement, and I couldn't agree more with him when regarding this book. So, Marisol, we are so pumped up about your book, about your book birthday. And before I delay any longer, I would love for you to tell us a little bit about you and introduce our guest. I know we have one here. We also have another who will be joining us later. You can go ahead and introduce her as well. And then we'll dive into the book and its contents and what you're hoping the reader gains from that. And I'll ask your wonderful friends and contributors a few questions as well. So remember, before Marisol introduces herself and talks a little bit about her guest today, if you are here, thank you, Margie, for commenting, and you are in the show, you're joining us, please do put a comment over in the comment section, because on these wonderful book birthdays, we do give away prizes. So one of you will win an opportunity to choose a free book from DBC Inc. just for joining. It's our party prize for you. So be sure to put some comments over in the comment section. At least tell us who you are, where you're from. Tell Marisol how excited you are for her. Any of that will work. It'll enter your name to win. So Marisol, without any other further delays, let's get started. Tell us a little bit about who you are, what you're doing right now, and introduce these beautiful contributors that we have joining us today.
I have to tell you, I just saw Tony Terasa's comment, and my goddaughter had commented earlier. And so always in my introductions, I am who I am because of the people that have poured into me and who have loved me. And I don't walk in this life alone. And so, of course, in writing this book, I reached out to people that I love and that I trust to support, because I also don't ever act like I have all the answers for everything. So I just want to start by saying I am part of who I am is because I am the mother of Camerina, Emilia, and Sofia, and I am the daughter of Irma Navran, and I am the grandmother to Isabela Luna, Cynthia Iliana, and Lorenzo Martin, and I'm the granddaughter of 4 Mexican immigrants, Camerina, Alejandro, Carmen, and Francisco. Sorry. But I recognize that the work that I do and who I am in this world, it's not just about me. My life is not about me. It's about honoring all of those who have come before me, and honoring those that walk with me, and really wanting to create a better space for those that are coming. The new beings in this world, and those that are coming in future generations. So just thank you for that moment. Sorry.
No, you're fine. I think this just is so telling of your character, honestly, and why you do such a fantastic job for DBC Inc. as the Director of Culture and Community. You're so passionate about people and about everything that they represent. And so that just shines through when you're telling us a little bit about you, and always just pushing it back on the people that help shape you into the person you are. So thank you for that, Marisol. Just was giving you a moment.
And part of who I am, the reason why I went into education is because I was a mom, and I was a young mom, and I also struggled in school. I didn't struggle. I didn't struggle because I couldn't do the work academically. I struggled because I had some social emotional things and that I think that, at that time, we're not recognized, we're not being taken care of. And so then I struggled academically, and I was open to a lot of other influences. And that's why I went into education, because I wanted to be able to see the people like me and my friends that were trying to slip away and be unseen. And then also, being a young mom, I wanted to provide the stability that having a career in education would provide me. And I wanted to create also that space for the kids, like my kids, right? Like see the world in that way. And that career, that work has brought me into so many beautiful spaces. And one of those being, as I moved into administration, was the National Institute for Latino School Leaders, where I really learned about the importance of, as an educational practitioner, as a school administrator, of the importance of our voice in the mix with policy and legislation in education. And that work helped me establish like this national network that I'm so proud of. And so every day now, I'm now the chief of partnerships and strategy. I get to do work on a national level and also do the work on a worldwide level with DVC. But as I had shared earlier, having Anjali on here also, like it became very overwhelming for a minute, because like, this is my first book birthday. I've never done this before. It's a first.
Yeah.
But Anjali and I connected through one of the I don't know the right word, through an organization. It's more than an organization, right? Like this thriving organization that she is a co-founder of, called the Siwapatli Collective, that does this amazing work around Indigenous birth practices. And she and I connected. It was one of those things of like, sometimes you see people and your hearts immediately connect and you don't understand it and you don't know it, or you'll just know, like, I'm supposed to know that person. I'm supposed to be connecting with that person.
Yes.
And so we started, so our relationship and our friendship was birthed from this work with the birth workers. And also we have a very deep spiritual connection and have prayed together in ceremony, which is very meaningful to me. And so when in writing this book, like, again, I don't have all the answers to things, but I had to invite her in. I had to invite her into the space. And she is, I want her to introduce herself so you can see how amazing she is and all the things that she does. But one of the things that we also do together is we host a nightly restorative check-in, which isn't nightly anymore, but I do Monday and Wednesdays and she does Fridays. But she is just doing, again, like just continuing to do amazing work. So Anjali, if you could please just talk a little bit about yourself and what you do and your contribution to the book.
Absolutely. Good morning, everyone. And Tara, nice to meet you. Let's see. I feel like the first qualification I have to give is that I'm Marisol's friend, right? Like that's
yes.
the only one that matters right now.
That's an honor.
It is. And actually, thank you for saying that, Tara, because I am going to start that way of like, that is how I'm showing up in this space. Like, I mean, I suppose I should have some sort of like, I don't know if the word is pride or something to say about the fact that I contributed to the book, but I'm here celebrating Marisol, and I just feel so lucky that I get to like be on the screen, to support my friend's accomplishments, But the reason, aside from being her friend, she asked me, to participate because I'm a psychologist, I'm a hypnotherapist, and as she said, I am the CFO for the Siwapatli Collective. The Siwapatli Collective focuses on Indigenous mothering, and so we like to say we work on issues from womb to tomb. Again, as she said, I also co-host the nightly restorative check-in with her through the National Parents Union. There are lots of things that I do, but I mean, I think just for the, the credentialing aspect of things, right? That's kind of who I am. There are other ways that Marisol and I connect and other ways that I show up in the world, particularly around being a mom, right? My background is particularly important to me, my ethno-racial background. So I'm Afro-Cuban and Guatemalan. We are Taino, Arawak, and Maya, by descent. So those are just some things that are often walking in with me when I'm stepping into a room. So because of my background as a psychologist, Marisol asked me to write a chapter regarding active listening. And the approach that I really took with that chapter was one of prior to doing all the things that I listed, I was a professor at the community college level, and I taught courses like psychology of culture, psychology of gender. During this time, like right now, like I stopped being a professor a couple of months ago. And when I say during this time right now, I mean like, wow, there were so many challenges, political challenges, and we were facing so many things. So I've really had to teach topics of diversity and culture with young folks, and figure out like, wow, how are we going to touch all these delicate topics when everything seemed like it was going to blow up, right? Yeah. And so thankfully nobody blew anyone up, and actually I don't mean to be tongue in cheek with that, but thankfully nothing bad happened in the classroom. And we were able to have meaningful conversations. And so I just offered the ways that, active listening, right, could be in some ways a restorative practice. But I've learned a lot from Marisol, about restorative practices. So that was what I had to bring to the book.
We are so grateful for you and your contribution. I can't wait for the world to get their hands on this book and start practicing these restorative practices, listening to what you have to say when it comes to that active listening piece, especially with these delicate topics, because I think a lot of us are out there just looking for resources, quality resources that we can actually implement. And I will say this book is that resource for you. I feel strongly about the recommendation that I read earlier, the endorsement. I think everyone who is going to enter any kind of teaching field, really any profession, honestly, if you're dealing with people with a heartbeat, you really need to read this book. I mean, that's just really the bottom line of it, because no matter what, these practices are really going to help you to be able to relate to each and every one that you get the opportunity to serve. And so, Marisol, with that said, I know that you have really poured your heart into this book. We felt that when you introduced yourself, and that is common emotion when we are releasing our manifesto into the world. It's like birthing a baby. It's much the same. It really is. I mean, this is the closest thing I can relate it to anyway. Mm-hmm. You're just giving all your heart and soul out for everyone to read and try to take in and make judgments or use it to their advantage. What is it that you're really hoping the readers will gain from this book? And if there was a favorite part that was for you to write, I would love for you to share that as well.
I think my hope is that the reader, whoever chooses to pick this up and is called to pick it up, starts to recognize and really accept and find some ways to reflect on themselves and the responsibility, I think, and also the control that they have over the way that they perceive the world, and the power that they have to really impact and change the things that they see that are not okay. The things that are not okay in their organization, the things that are not okay in relationships, the things that they see in, that are happening that they're not okay with, that they feel that they are able to gain resources to build their courage, and to be brave and to be vulnerable and to face into trying to impact what they see is not okay. I think that's my ultimate hope. What I love what I really loved about the book was the process. And so as I shared earlier, like for me, almost everything that I do is about community. And so when I made the decision to write this book, and I had talked about it with Dave. I've known Dave and Shelley for my entire teaching career. And so my kids were little when we met. And now I'm a grandma. So, I had stepped out of the classroom and I had started doing this work with staff. So I think that's the other piece, is that if we want to do, like, really, I think in any initiative, but if we want to engage in the restorative way of being, if we want to implement this at our school sites, we have to do this work with staff. Like we can't just do circles or have like opportunities for mediation or difficult conversations or practice active listening just with kids. We have to do it with the adults in the room. And we have to use this way of being to resolve conflicts that are happening in the school with the adults. And so because I had been doing this work with adults, I knew that we needed to have the classroom, and I always want things to be right and to be real. So I invited Pedro Terrazas, who I've also known since I started my my teaching career, who is a restorative practice specialist in his school district and has been leading this work and just does amazing things. So he and I were meeting every Saturday at 6 o'clock in the morning. And we were talking restorative practices, talking this way of being, and we really grounded and center it in Indigenous ceremony. And really the Indigenous way of being, for I think like just kind of basically is really we see as fact that we all belong to each other.
Mm-hmm.
And that and if we belong to each other, then we have responsibilities to each other to be the best version of ourselves and to face those things that are keeping us from being the best version of ourselves. But that time with him at 6 o'clock in the morning, every Saturday at Starbucks, we had our mini therapy sessions. We had, but then you see the beautiful contributions that he makes in the book, talking about his work implementing it, his work with the kids, and the recommendations that he gives. And then we so we finished the first round. And then I went back into the second round of writing. And at that time, we didn't have that ability anymore. So then I turned to my friend, so my very dear friend, Dr. Carolyn Gary and I, who have known each other through the National Institute for Latino School Leadership work. She's in Colorado, and she is an educational leader who has done a tremendous amount of work in trauma and resiliency, but was doing this work before people really understood the impact of trauma in schools for kids and staff. But she was doing this work 10, 12 years ago at a school that she started. And so she and I both happened to be in a space where we had both left the school system and we're doing different work. And so the end of the book, she and I were meeting every day. So like almost every single day we were meeting. Like I was working on the book. So she contributed a chapter on trauma that is really phenomenal. And so I think my favorite part of the book is that it's not, again, like it's not just, I was able to bring in 3 people who are such beautiful beings in this world and who have have that same commitment of leaving this world a better place than we entered it. And are also have chosen career fields and developed expertise that can support others in this way of being.
I love it. I think, this is such a beautiful book. And I love that. I love your hope for the readers too. I think that is just perfect. I also really appreciate what you talked about, how when you and Pedro were meeting and how you realized that if we all understand that we're all a part of this and everyone feels valued and appreciated, then this should settle into our hearts. I mean, I don't know if I paraphrased that very well, but you said it so beautifully. I should have written it down. But that is the piece that really resonated with me. Like we have to realize we are a collective unit and make sure that everybody feels like a part of that unit. I feel like you do such a great job of that, of recognizing all of the unique pieces about every individual, but how we all help each other to become who we are. You did that so beautifully at the onset too. Your mom is just melting my heart over here, by the way. Since we're live, I can just say that out loud. She's just so sweet and talking about you and how proud she is of you. I love that so much. So back to you, Dr. Anjali. I'm curious, would you be willing to share maybe just one strategy of active listening that the readers can just practice right now, just live on the show? I know that they're going to want to pick up the book. And someone asked earlier, by the way, I forget who it was, and I'm so sorry, how to pick up the book, how to get the book right now. The link is also above and below this video, depending on where you're watching it. Dave has dropped it into the comments. I've dropped it in the comments from DVC Inc. as well. So you can buy it on Amazon or Barnes & Noble. It is available right now. So it after the show, of course, you should go pick it up. It'll still be there. But before we do that, I did want to answer that question. Dr. Anjali, yeah, if you'd be willing to share with us just one of your favorite tips for active listening.
Absolutely. Or, you know, we can open multiple tabs on our computers, right? And you can listen and watch and order. Absolutely. I think if I could only recommend one, it would be to kind of listen without speaking, right? And so to kind of really think about and activate the parts of listening that have nothing to do with our verbal responses. There's so many other ways that we listen with our heads, we're nodding, right? You know, and you all are doing it with me right now, right? There's so many ways that we communicate with people that we're following along. And I think I recommend that because I also think it's the hardest one to do whenever we kind of isolate these skills and these skills, or micro skills is what we call them. That one can feel the most foreign. And as soon as we feel like we can converse and give some information back, we feel better, you know, but there's something about just like allowing ourselves to just truly listen without feeling like we need to have a response prepared.
I love that. And it's very true. I found that a lot too with hosting live shows and also podcasting, just not saying, yeah, you know, just even that, because you truly can register more of what people are saying without those verbal responses. So I appreciate that tip. That's a really great one. Marisol, is there any other thing that you would like to share with our listeners before we go? And this could be anything. It could be, you've already shared your favorite part of the book. You already shared your hopes for them. Is there any other thing that you would like to share before we end this wonderful party? This is your time to just share that, and then we'll go to the contact information of how they can connect with either of you at the end.
So when I just wanted to go back because I had forgotten this quote, but Mother Teresa said, if we have no peace, it's because we have forgotten that we belong to one another. And so I think when you think about what not having peace means and looks like tangibly, that's what inequity is, right? It's not having peace. There's no peace. When there is conflict, there's not peace. And I think that there's that opportunity for us to remember that we belong to one another. One of the things that I'm proud of in the book, because I'm proud of it in my work, is that there's an offering of ways that your system can really become aligned and not just talk the talk, but walk the walk. And that is in, some practices around the foundational setting for your work. And what happens in a lot of organizations, and in my experience in education, is that we don't, in a meaningful way, involve all of the voices of people into decision making. And what I have found with staff is staff feels valued, parents feel valued, students feel valued when you really ask for them to give input into decisions that are being made in your school. Or in your organization, and they feel ownership. And that's how magic happens. And that's how transformation happens, when everybody feels that they have a part, that their voice matters, and that they are a part of the work. And so in a very simple way, the foundational statements, they're really around setting agreements for how it is that you agree, like expectations of how you're going to treat each other, and how you're going to handle and resolve any conflict that come up. Really laying down your belief statements, what you as a collective believe about your work, and then your mission and vision. And those things can seem so there's so many books, right, that are written about that. But really, they don't mean anything when they hang on a wall, or when they're the practice of bringing them up, the practice of actually practicing those agreements. So taking time with your staff to practice, and your students, what do you do when somebody steps outside of those agreements? Because you can review them, but when somebody talks instead of saying talking from their place of I, and start trying to potentially hide behind a we, and don't want to name those people, how do you address that?
Mhm.
How do you say, hey, you're not following the like how do you do that? So I think that to me is that work. I think that's the space where transformation for organizations can really happen. But it begins with how to bring everybody's voices into the mix, how to honor the voices of everybody that is working within that organization or that system. And I think that this work translates beyond just schools. Like, this is also like work of families. This is work of any organization that you're in. So I think that piece is that piece, again, I'm very proud of it, because that to me is where you can really make the change. And that's where I've seen the magic happen in schools, has been from giving people voice, and then like setting those expectations and practicing what that accountability looks like, how to hold each other accountable to that. And that's included in the book as well.
Yes, and you practice that even when you lead our meetings, our book studies. I'm like, oh, this sounds familiar. Not just because I read the book, because I've lived it with you. And so I think, like you said, it just transfers to whatever it is that you're doing. It doesn't even really matter which organization you're with. If you're not in education, this works for you as well. And so thank you so much, Marisol. Thank you, Dr. Anjali, for joining us today. It's just been such an honor to have both of you share parts and pieces of this incredible book. Remember, if you haven't picked up your copy, you really should just head over to Amazon. It's on Amazon and Barnes & Noble. The links are listed above and below. You will see them all over social media today as well. And then in a couple of days, you will also see a link on our DBC Inc. book page. And there you'll be able to preview the book for free and check it out and then go buy it. But I'm telling you right now, you're going to want this one as a part of your professional library. It is definitely one that we all need to have our hands on and read it. And as you read it, or not and as you read it, you're going to want to connect with Marisol and share all the wonderful things you're learning from her work, as well as Dr. Anjali. So how can they connect with you guys on social media or in other ways?
So for me, everything's pretty much under my name in social media. So if you just look at my name, and then also I'm at DBC, so you can find me on the DBC page. My email address is Marisol at Dave Burgess Consulting Inc. I also am with the National Parents Union, so I'm Marisol at mpunion.org. So any of those places, but everything social media is under my name. And before I go, I just want to say hello to my mom, and I love you, and I thank you for everything that you have done in this world, and for who you are, and for loving me. I love you, Mom. And I also just want to take a moment and thank Tara, to thank your family, your ancestors, and Anjali, yours. Like, what a beautiful moment for us to be sharing this. And I know that there's just a lot of celebration of the people that are responsible for us. So thank you.
Thank you. Go ahead, Dr. Anjali.
Thank you. Yeah. So same as Marisol, everything on social media is under my name. If one-stop shop, I have a website, iamanjali.com. That way you can also connect to me via email if necessary. But yeah, that's the best way to reach me. And again, I just want to give my congratulations to you, Marisol. And I'm beaming. I hope you can feel my joy for you, that like everyone that we're connected to, I feel like it's just passing through me. So I hope you feel it for them as well.
I do. Thank you.
You guys are lovely. It's been such a joy to celebrate this moment with you. And I'm looking forward to seeing the world get this book in their hands and share their reflections and their connections and their transformations that happen because of it. So thank you for the work that you've put into this work, and being able to amplify that message and share it out with so many people. We are so grateful here at DBC Inc. to have Marisol as a part of our community, our team, and then also to share this wonderful message out with all of you. So please do share out, tag us at DBC_Inc., tag Dave at Burgess, Dave at Shelley, at Burgess Shelley, and then also be sure and use the hashtags Beyond the Surface. So thank you so much for joining us. Happy book birthday, and we'll see you all soon on social media. Bye, everyone.